All right. Okay. I would like to call the meeting of the Board of Appeals to order for November 20th, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. And do I start with the overview, or do you want me to get approval of the agenda?
Oh, roll call.
Oh, okay. How about roll call? Okay. Noel Halverson is not present. Barb Dorf, Vice Chair, is present. Stephen Schuchart.
Present.
Corey Bogenschutz.
Excused.
Excused. Joshua Cook.
Excused.
And Benjamin Andrews.
Present.
Okay. So we have 3 people, which is a quorum. I will now call for the approval of the agenda. I have a motion to approve the agenda,
Motion to approve the agenda?
made by Benjamin. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, seconded by Stephen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The agenda's been approved. I'll now accept a motion for the approval of the minutes from October 16th, 2023.
I motion so.
Second.
Moved by Steve, second by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, we're going to go to regular business, but before we do that, the chair is walking into the room. And would you, if you'd like me to, I could read the overview while you're
Sure.
getting settled in. Okay, so the Board of Appeals overview. The Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals hears and acts on appeals for variances from city zoning code requirements. The members of the board are appointed, and the board acts as a quasi-judicial body during these appeals, which means that the appeals are presented like a case is presented in court. The board acts as the judge and determines whether to grant the appeal by majority vote. For each item, we will hear from the applicant and staff, as well as any additional witnesses where appropriate. If you are the applicant for an item on tonight's agenda, please come and take a seat at the table when your item is called. Do you want me to do the conflicts too? Okay. At this time, I'm going to say it is the goal of the Board of Appeals to provide and conduct a hearing that is fair in form, appearance, and substance. To ensure that this hearing satisfies these goals, each member of the Board of Appeals please confirm the following for this appeal by stating, I confirm. 1, I do not have a conflict of interest in these matters.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I have not received any communication from any person or party about these matters. I confirm.
I confirm.
Okay, we all confirm. All right, so,
That's for number 1.
was it for number, do we do it, do we do an
You gotta do it each
overview?
time. You do it each time.
Each time we do it, so we don't do the whole overview one
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
It's just each time we do it. Okay, all right, got it.
Cool.
Go, sir,
All right.
chair.
Did we roll call?
We did everything up to regular business.
Okay, so note, I'm here for roll.
Okay.
And let's start then with Appeal 23-31, regular business E1, consideration with possible action on a variance request submitted by Robert Nowak, applicant and property owner, to request to exceed accessory building standards in a low-density residential zoning district at 1570 East Mason Street. This is the item we held over from last time. Great. Would the petitioner please come to the table here?
I feel older today.
All right, if I recall, we tabled this because we heard something from the applicant that there was maybe some changes to codes or things like that, and we tabled it so that there was some time to investigate both on their part and on yours. As with a typical item, we'll start with you, John, and maybe you could just recap the item a little bit for us. And John, do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, so as noted, this was held over from the October meeting. What's at question here is 2 different parts of the zoning code. One is the number of accessory structures allowed. That ends up being at 2. And then within a residential district, the design and construction of any garage, carport must be similar and compatible with the design and construction of the main building. The materials or style and color shall be similar to the main building or shall be commonly associated with residential construction.
Recording in progress.
So This is a property on Mason Street, just across from that new Starbucks that's been put up over near the East River. To refresh, going back to some of the things that were brought up before, there was a question of, was there an ordinance that was passed back in 2016, 2017, that time frame, that related to carports? Do not have anything of that sort. So in this section of code, the last time it was revised was back in 2009. That was relating to accessory structures and corner side yard setbacks. It wasn't to carports. There was a ordinance back in 2016, 2017 era that had to deal with outdoor storage, which maybe there was confusion as far as outdoor storage for things back at that time, but nothing directly related to carports. Mind you, the outdoor storage was also related to commercial activities, not to residential activities at that time. This goes back to our code here, 44-590 sub C, and just in general 44-590. That's a quick refresher on this then. There are some things about this property that, if this is brand new and fresh, would meet code, but they are already legal non-conforming. Those things being the following: it's over impervious surface, but that's been in place for a long time, and there are already two smaller buildings that are on the sites that are near setbacks, but those have been around for pushing past 2 decades, looking back into our aerials, and when we see things that were from 2006 beyond, if they were there, we just consider them to be legal non-conforming at this point. So what you're seeing right here is said carport next to one of the other accessory buildings on the site. When talking with the applicants, there might have been some questions as how close this is to the property line itself for accessory structures, but he did agree that if there's a question about that being set back, you can move this a bit to make within property lines. This is the other shed that's on the property, so 1, 2, 3 accessory buildings that are on the property itself. This is a view back in 2017, you can clearly see the carport at that point. Back in 2014, no such thing, no carport, but kind of tell that there's the accessory buildings. Going back to 2005, you see the accessory buildings on the site. And so that's where we're at.
All right, any questions for staff? Okay, so for the petitioner, sir, you had talked about, or a friend of yours had looked at some things and thought they saw that the code had changed after, or before, after the carport was installed. Yeah, do you have any documentation to support
He
that?
tried finding it again, and he couldn't find it.
Quick procedural here. We do the oath.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Okay, great, thank you, sorry about that.
No.
So no, you don't have any documentation
No,
of that?
and I wish I could remember who I spoke to, because the people that I bought the building from ain't from around here.
Mhm.
They told me to call the city up, make sure that it's okay to put it there, or they're not gonna put it up.
Right.
So I called the city up, and the city said, yes, as long as it's anchored down. I said, oh, okay, and I called them back, they said, City of Green Bay says, yes, but as long as it's anchored down. Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
And they anchored it down.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah, and whether or not this was gonna be the third structure on the lot might not have even come up on
Yeah, and I
the third
don't know
accessory
about that, yeah.
building.
But is there a way where I can make that other building one building? I got the two buildings. I can join them together and take the wall out. That's no big deal.
We talked about that last time, but it was going to end up being too big, wasn't it?
Right, so I'll go back
It was one
to,
of the things
The
that
one
was
is an
brought
8 by 10, the other one's a 10 by 12.
right, so the overall square footage, if you combine them, ends up, so you're allowed to have one structure that is up to 1,000 square feet, and then a second structure, 150 square feet. You can expand that 150 with the conditional use permit. It would not come through this board, but you could have a second structure, if approved, with the conditional use permit over 150 square feet.
So, and what's the area under of the carport?
Going back to that. The carport itself. Approximately 20 by 18, 360 square feet.
How did
You
you
can
get
do
first
that.
building? If they put those two together, isn't that over 1,000?
When you combine all of them, no, they do not equal over 1,000 square
Oh, they
feet.
don't?
No, correct.
Oh.
If you took all three structures, it would not be 1,000 square feet.
Right. But either one of them would be a first one, and then a second can't be more than the 150.
Correct,
Conditional
yes.
use approval
Yeah.
by the plan commission.
Yeah.
So I guess that, if that's a proposal to move forward here, I guess that's another action by a different body than us, and we would need to wait until that body made a determination as to
It'll be
whether or not
plan, right?
that plan could be approved before we would spend our time deliberating on the initial variance request, unless, somebody's in the mood to grant the variance because they can see that all the tests are met, but I'm not sure that we were seeing that last time.
I could probably tap dance into it, but I'd have to put some thought into it.
So, is that, sir, that what you're proposing as the solution to this is to try and get a conditional use permit to connect the two other sheds?
I don't want to do anything illegal. I mean, I'd like to join the two sheds together though.
And then get a conditional use approval to exceed the 150 square feet for the secondary structure, and then,
Yeah.
So can he talk to you about that, John, or who did?
yeah, but that's got to go to plan commission. I think.
Right. This is just, I'm just suggesting options here. This could be tabled, and then if there's legitimate action as far as moving forward with a request for city action with the plan commission, with the CUP, that could go down that pathway, yes.
And I can paint that carport the same color as the house.
Well, those are, I guess, are other challenges we've got to contemplate as well, because that's another factor in the variance here.
Yeah, and I think, at least for myself, I can satisfy the requirements
On the appearance?
On the appearance, because, I mean, it isn't even visible from the road. I've driven by your house 1,000
Yeah.
times, and I've never
Shallow
really put a
now.
carport back there, yeah.
And I'm behind him.
Yeah, that's my.
Yeah,
It's-
And
it's-
next to him.
It's fine, I don't have, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We're not going to open up the floor if we don't
Sorry.
need to today. No, that's great. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody being here in support of this request.
So I would like to move to table it with the understanding that if he came back, if it comes back to us, he doesn't have to pay to come back again?
Yeah, and that would be tabling pending the outcome of plan
Plan
commission
commission?
review here.
That's what I'd like to move. To
Okay.
table pending the outcome of plan commission.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to table to allow the petitioner or the applicant here to pursue a conditional use approval for a plan to connect the two sheds.
Yes.
To create just two accessory buildings, which is permissible under code. You still have some hoops to jump through with us if you
Yeah.
do get that approval.
Yeah.
But we can sit tight until you're ready to have that conversation with us.
Okay. I'll do whatever it takes. I mean,
All right, is there any other discussion of the motion on the table? Hearing none.
I would just propose that there be a more definite timeline on that, so that we know when
90,
the applicant.
let's say 90 days. I don't know the exact load of the plan commission and how that works, so.
Would it be based on the application itself because we do not know our exact dates for next year, but as long as the application is put in, our next application deadline is on December,
It would be for the
That's-
January.
January, yeah.
I mean, I think that we should give him at least 4
Well,
months. or
I was gonna say, why don't we give him the 4 months, and we'll bring it back up, and if we need more time, we will table
Let's
it
do that.
again.
Let's
yeah,
do the
because
4
being
months.
cold. My brother's gonna come over and join the buildings together.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're getting the work done.
Yeah.
So it means that you're going through the whole process.
We'll bring
of
this
plan.
back to the March, to table until the March meeting of
Table
the
until
Board
March.
of Appeals.
I'll add that to my motion.
Okay.
Does my second agree with that? Steve, second?
Steve.
Yeah, I second that, yes.
Okay, any further discussion? Any other procedural details that we can comply with? All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, so we've tabled this, we'll have you back in March, if not before, and we can always advance it if you're ready to go with Plan Commission. And then we'll have to talk about, if you get satisfaction from the Plan Commission, then we'll still have to talk about the design.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And thank you all for
You got one more
coming.
question. I
supporting our
got-
neighbor.
On the one side of the house, if you can bring the pictures up, there's that shade, you know, you can sit underneath with a table. Well, that's getting pretty bad, so I'm gonna have to take that down. What do they do? These people have been building out of the old corn bins, shade, like a.
Oh, yeah.
put your table
I know what
up
you're
here.
talking about,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they look really good. Can you do that?
I have no idea.
But you'd have to go.
You'd have to
It's
sort of
gonna-
John about that.
it's gonna be another structure unfortunately, because it's like a
Okay.
gazebo essentially.
Yeah, it's a gazebo, yeah. Okay, so then I can do
Well, we
that.
saw one of those. They wanted
Well, I
to-
know
We're talking about
That's
structures,
cool.
yeah.
Oh.
It really depends on the size of it, is what comes into play.
I think it's 12 by 12.
It'd be too large, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the round roof. They put speakers in it.
I don't know if you looked at how much they cost either, because I looked
I
at
think
them.
they went for $200.
Oh, God. All right, well, then, there you go.
From a farmer.
Well,
All right, moving on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's jump into Appeal 23-33. Consideration with possible action on a variance request from Mark and Cynthia Dawson, applicants and property owners, to exceed the required front yard setback of a one- or two-family residence in a low-density residential district, which happens to be R1, at 1830 14th Avenue. Petitioner, please join us at the table. Thank you for joining us. And as we did earlier, we're going to start with staff talking about this, and then we'll come back to you.
my wife would be here, but she's home with sick.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we're going to confirm
That's my
also
job.
for, that's great. Keep me on it. For members of the board, please confirm the following for this appeal by stating I confirm. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I
I
can
confirm.
I confirm. Great. John, is the testimony you're about to, do you swear that, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please proceed.
All right, so what we're looking at here is a front yard setback along 14th Avenue between Lombardi and Liberty. So it's noted here, when a block is built up, the front yard setback is derived from averaging out the existing front yard structures for principal structures themselves. So wherever your front yard setback needs to be equivalent to the average of the existing structures. And this petition is looking to exceed that average in itself. So this is the parcel. This is Lombardi right here. Liberty is up even further. It's about 20 structures or so that are on this this block. It's a pretty long block. This is the existing structure itself. The applicants are looking to create a porch or a deck that's not covered in the front of the property itself. So you're going to note there's a plane with the garage and the house is on plane, and then there's a bit of a setback, it's about 1.9 feet or so. That comes back in the house. They're looking to make a 6-foot deep porch or deck onto the front of the building. This is a better image of that, so 4.1 feet and then 1.9 of the existing house, then back out for the porch itself. So porches and decks, unless it's covered, are considered to be a part of the front yard itself. And with this block overall, I'm going to go back to this photo. In average, we're using the aerial photos. We're giving an approximate right here, but in average, most of the homes in this block are about 28 to 30 feet off of the front right away. This house itself happens to be one of those about 28 feet or so off the front right away. There are a few other anomalies on the block. This house that's right here happens to be set back approximately 3.6 feet in front of the house in question. There are also four other homes on Liberty that are set back around 24 to 25 feet or so from the setback. And there's one that's set back 53 feet, so way set back. We're not counting that one. The average allows you to discount anomalies that are over 20% from the normal average. So we're taking that one, tossing it aside, and then keeping the rest. All that in mind, though, because there's just so many houses, ends up being the average is around 27.9 feet. So where their house is at right now, that is the front yard setback for the block. And they are looking to create this 6-foot structure that would, 4.1 would come out from the front and 1.9 would be set back. So, what's legal right here? What would happen without any sort of issues? If you made a 1.9 or 2 feet, because you have that 0.1 feet structure that came off, that'd be fine. You're setting the front porch and deck back in the front yard setback. It's allowed. It's that you're crossing that barrier now of the rest of the block, that 4.1 feet, and it's considered to be part of the overall structure. So that's a request for variance with this. Overall, the size of the porch is 156 square feet. Because we're talking about 26 times 4.1 or 4 feet, it's about 107 square feet or so. That's exceptionally outside of the front yard setback that's been built up. But yeah, just a note back over to here. This building itself happens to be about 3.6 feet or so in front of the front plane of this existing building right now. And there are some homes along this way that are about 3 feet ahead of it as well.
You can see them about mid-block there. Okay, any questions for staff? So you're shooting this from an aerial photo, you're measuring the setback lines
Yeah.
and determining that, and, I mean, there's a little bit of,
There's a little leeway
there's
there
a little bit of
without,
magic involved in that sort of
right,
measurement.
without going to this block with the survey crew and spending a half a day measuring out every last, this is taking the aerial photo, and this is why, frankly, if this was say a foot leeway,
Yeah.
you know, things wouldn't come in front of this board because of that, but ends up being 4 feet. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if there was a de minimis
Yeah,
wiggle that you
Right.
would say it isn't worth, you know.
agreed, yeah, I understand that, yeah, yeah.
All right, any other questions? Thanks, John. Any other questions for staff? All right, well, let's hear from our applicant. Sir, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
All right, great. Let's hear from you.
We want to put up a 6 by 26, 6 out, 26 long.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, we're always taking really good care of our yards, as you can probably see in the picture. And we made it, well, we want to be able to sit on the front porch. Right now, we just have a little porch. And we want to be able to sit in rocking chairs out there. You can't go much less narrow because you have no room for your legs and everything, and rock. And my wife's got a few health problems, so it works better for her in the long run down the road and everything. So that's basically what I think sitting in the neighborhood, I think it's gonna look very nice. And we get along with everybody around the neighborhood, so that's why nobody probably complains or says anything about it. And we talked to several of them, they kind of know what we're gonna do it. And we get their approval, what they thought about it, everybody, even neighbors that live farther down that we know, we brought this up to everybody to kind of inform them what we were thinking of doing, and what their thoughts were. Everybody was pretty, so go ahead. So I appreciate if you really consider this, because we really like to do it, so.
Is this going all the way to the end of the house?
No.
I can-
See that little bump over where the left sign is? That's where it would start.
That's where it
Then
starts.
go to the right-hand side, that part.
Yeah, does it go all the way to the end of the house on the right?
Yeah, 26 feet,
Okay.
yes. There would be, it's 26 feet long.
All right. Any questions for our applicant?
So the intent is to, you know, use it for sitting out there, you know, rocking
Correct.
chairs, whatever. Right now, my understanding is we're at 1.9 feet. So that's pretty shallow.
Yeah,
If you got it up to 3, would it work for you? Probably not.
probably not, no.
Okay.
You have to have the rocking chairs.
It would, we
Yeah, well,
measured all this, we took one
I
out.
thought I'd ask.
We kind of got how it works, we took a rocking chair out that we have,
Yeah.
and
You mentioned a
but it just
wheelchair.
doesn't work.
What's the wheelchair part, because you mentioned it.
My wife had really bad knees, and they can't operate on them. They were just in, and she's gonna probably be in a wheelchair. But I can build a ramp, you know, because it takes away from that step going up to the house, because I cannot put a ramp in the garage going in, it's impossible. So I don't want a ramp sticking way out in the whole front yard, but it just makes it easier for her to get up the steps and walk into the house, because she does not like that first step out of the house now that you drop down 8 inches. This would be level coming out in the deck, which make it a lot better for her. And that's one of
Ramps
the
can
reasons-
extend though, ramp, I mean, if he ever had to have a ramp.
Ramps are allowed to extend out, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I talked to John about
Yeah.
that when you were over.
Yeah.
John, do you know the width from where the bump out is to the right-hand side of the front door?
Oh, this, so from here to here, I do
Yeah.
not know how wide it is now.
The roof line right there where the pillars are,
Yeah.
from that door out is 3 feet to the eave trough to the edge of the house. And there's a 2 foot, well, 1'9", almost 2 foot offset where that love sign is. And then it just goes straight back.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how wide that current stoop is from here to the column.
That sticks out 3 feet.
No, no.
I don't know how wide it is.
Oh, how wide it is? I forget exactly what it is.
Put up the porch plan again, maybe we can just eyeball it from there. So it's 26 in the whole width of it. And that 26 looks to be about just center, so it's maybe probably 14 feet or so, give or take.
Yeah, I would say the scale on this is not great, but
Yeah.
about half is about where it's at.
Kind of thinking of a compromise here.
Oh, I'm just,
I'm just trying to play with
Yeah,
it too.
I mean, I don't think it would, you'd still need the variance though, wouldn't you?
well, I guess part of it is, John, you're talking about the 107 square feet that's protruding from the setback line into the front yard setback as determined
Right.
by the measurements. You know, again, there's a level at which that's not a big issue either, right? Or something that's an actionable item. What is that square footage threshold? Do you have one?
So the city allows, you're gonna notice this on this block especially, houses this age, they're built up, so you have a front stoop to where you have that landing to go into a door. And so it's just been in policy to allow for a 5 or 25 square foot area, or a 5 by 5, for a landing to get in and out of a house. So they might, a lot of these on this block will have potentially a 5 by 5 foot area to allow for you to stand up on after climbing, say, a stair or two to get to that landing. So I'm just noting that we would allow, in general, 25 square feet as a policy to do
Yeah.
something. So and what I wanted to note here is, it's not as though where this building plane, the longer one that's in question, that's not the actual front. The front is going to be about 2 feet or so from that, or 1.9 feet is the front for this. And we're adding on that 0.1 feet as far as the overall average of the block. Ends up being that your front could go up that extra 0.1 foot. So what's really in question here is a 4-foot jaunt from the front of the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a structure that's more than 25 square feet.
Yeah, and I'm looking at 4 feet, 14 feet wide even, say, to the other side of that door. That's still almost 60 feet, 60 square feet of encroachment into the setback.
So we've got really 4 times 6, right?
No, it's 4 times 14.
No, I know.
Yeah.
What we have, what could be allowed would be 4 times 6, would 24 be allowed, because 25 is allowed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can note there have been folks who have asked to have something like this done on ranch houses, to where they've put out, because they just wanted to have more wide area for things like delivery packages, to where they wanted to have, like, say, a 2 by 12 foot, or a 2.5 by whatever that is, 10 feet, 2.5 by 10 feet, to make something happen to where, say, the packages were planters, things of that sort. And because even though the intent with that is, with the 5 by 5 is an area to open a door and enter, if somebody else has a different mindset of how they use that 25 square feet, feel free.
So like my little thinking here, 'cause I'm really trying to figure out how we can say yes to this, and it's really gonna be hard. But if we let him go up 6 feet, and that, the whole part goes out, and then he can still have the other part all the way down, but not going out the whole 6 feet. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Do
but
you understand that?
I do, but I think you'd be putting the bulk of the area in with a traffic lane as it were going to the door, right?
Right, so by right, or by.
You said you could put it anywhere you want.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
You said,
Yeah.
we don't
so-
have to put it in front of the door.
You
So
don't
just
have
6
We
feet
to.
can
no.
tuck it.
But that
Just-
said, if there are stairs there, and there's a landing there too, that counts as your 25 square feet. So the stairs have to start right at that spot, just noting. Because the stairs don't count, but to be actual stairs. You have 25 square feet to work with as far as a landing, and we can be creative with our interpretation of that. But It's meant to be a landing to the door, is what's happened there. And it's,
All right, so let's maybe stop trying to solve this situation for a second, although I'm throwing good ideas out there. And let's just talk for a moment if we see the possibility of granting a variance that, would not be inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations, that there's some exceptional circumstance with this property that warrants the variance, that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the same substantial rights as others, that there's no public detriment, and that there's some form of hardship that complying with this is a challenge and to the household and is not solely an economic hardship. Is there anybody who can see those conditions being met or in the materials presented by the petitioner?
I can do property rights, detriment, preservation of intent. It's hardship and exceptional circumstances. I don't know where to go. Those are the two that I'm having a hard time coming up with, because it doesn't seem to me that there's anything particularly unique about the lot.
Right.
You could raise the porch up now, that have to eliminate the drop down. Not ideal, I understand, but, yeah, I'm having a hard time with those two.
Would you mind stating your opinions for the other items?
Oh, sure. So for me, for preservation of intent, when we look at John had the ordinance up earlier, it doesn't seem to me that particularly this is in order to keep that relatively equal to structures. And I don't think that the protrusion that they're going to have, given the variance on the block, is necessarily a perversion of the intent of the code. I also don't consider it to be if we drop down to the public nuisance or the absence of detriment, I also don't see that as causing a problem for neighbors or the neighborhood or the city.
That a very nicely kept yard.
Yeah, and I mean, that's nothing but in your favor, that how nice the yard is.
Thank you.
So those things I see, and of course, preservation of property rights. I mean, it is his property, and he should be reasonably able to. This is a reasonable request overall along those lines, and I don't see any reason. It feels to me like we wouldn't want to deny him his property rights on that note. The problem is exceptional circumstances and hardship. The lot is not unique. The neighborhood's not terribly unique. It looks like a relatively recent construction in the last 20 years.
That house, 40 years.
40 years? Okay.
1951.
51, okay, all right. It looks really good, so I assumed it was good. And then the hardship. I could maybe make the argument around your wife's mobility issues. However, there's a number of things you could do to solve that without going.
It just makes it, we just talked about, it makes it a lot easier for her down the road.
Yeah.
I know it's not a big hardship thing, I understand that.
Yeah.
I agree with you, it's not.
Well, I mean, it's, I mean, I can maybe make the argument on hardship too, but the exceptional circumstances, I don't know. I don't know how to get around it.
And a deck on the back of the same size would be, probably something that would be a no-brainer for them. And
Yeah.
they would do it.
Yeah.
It's not like they can't build one if they want to have a place to sit. It's
Yeah.
just they don't get the front yard one.
Yeah.
Does anybody see any case for exceptional circumstances or hardship here? I'm afraid I don't either.
Dang it. I want to. I'm trying to. I was trying to look at these, and some of these other houses extend up further than this house does.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
They totally do.
Yeah, that's why it's based on the average, which is kind of weird, but, and if the other house right next to it to the north was also forward of this house, and it was in a valley of the two, I would have a lot easier time
Oh, yeah,
finding
yeah.
an exceptional circumstance.
Yeah.
The other side, it's, I mean, that is definitely further out than that. See it? I don't think this is further out than that. I think this is closer
That one's closer.
to me. This one's closer.
That one
You don't
is-
think this one is?
Well, that one, John was stating that.
If you don't mind, if we're gonna talk
Oh, sorry.
about, if we're gonna talk about that.
We should have it on the
you
screen.
can have it on
We have a
the screen,
screen.
just for the record.
All right.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but we just, I'm not sure which one.
Right, and I can note, we were out there looking at this. The house this out is, we measured it 3.6 feet ahead of where the front plane is. If you look to the north, this block was very uniformly set out as
Oh, it
far as
is,
where the front
okay.
is. Now, there are the anomalies that, there are a few homes that are about 3 feet ahead, but this is a very long block.
Yeah.
And so, there are 4 homes on this block that also, that this request is to be 4.0 feet ahead. Their other homes are about 3 feet ahead as well. They're just further up.
Yeah, I think that mostly goes towards actions of detriment though, and the intent of the code.
Right, just to keep the conversation moving, I'm going to ask one more time if anybody sees any case here for the exceptional circumstances or hardship. All
Unfortunately,
right, it seems like we aren't able to see our way to a yes here tonight, so I guess I'd entertain a motion, or unless there's some other thought that you have as a petitioner that you might be able to work out with John and come up with something that could be a variant to your plan that might be acceptable, but other than that, I think we may need to act to deny it tonight.
Okay. I move that we deny the request.
I would second.
Right, I have a motion and a second to deny the request. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Sorry, sir.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
we have to fill out the, we have to make the requirements, otherwise we
I
can't do
understand.
it.
I understand.
I'm
Thank you for
really
your
sorry.
time.
All right, and last but not least, in terms of our appeals this evening, Appeal 23-34, consideration with possible action on a variance request submitted by Mitchell Tyson of Georgia Pacific, applicant and property owner, to exceed maximum standards for an exempt directional sign in a general industrial district at 1919 South Broadway. Welcome to the table. We'll do the same thing we've done with some of these other items. First, I'm going to ask if any of our members have a conflict of interest. And if you can, please say I confirm to the following statements or speak up. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
Confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. All right, and then we'll hear from staff first, and then you, John, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
All right, so this is at the Georgia Pacific plant. We've seen a few things at this plant, big plant, but they're all different little things that have gone through. This is a directional signage question. So in our sign code, we have what are called exempt signs. One of those is directional signage on properties. But part of that is the values placement. So directional signs not exceeding square feet in industrial district. They're displayed for direction, safety, or convenience of the public, including signs which identify restrooms, parking areas, loading areas. And then the sign itself should not exceed 6 feet in height. So this is a freestanding sign. And so we are, as a staff, we're looking into what way to, there's 2 pathways this could have gone down. There's the directional signage with these avenues, or there can be freestanding signs. So in industrial districts, you're allowed to have a freestanding sign on the property, commercial in nature. They can be 30 feet in height, but they have to have a 10-foot clearance, and they have to meet the setback for that district, which is 10 feet. This sign in general, this is the overall parcel for Georgia Pacific. This is where it's at along Lombardi Avenue, near one of the parking lots near Lombardi itself, in the setback, but not in the sidewalk or the road area. We felt was a directional sign. It didn't meet the standards of being a typical one used for commercial purposes or advertising yourself out to the world. This is a directional sign, as noted here with what is being promoted on the sign. So these are standing gates to go to certain areas that, in general, the public wouldn't be caring about this, but for the different users who are needing this, who are employees or contractors, to note where it's at. And so you'll see here along Lombardi Avenue, this is placed into, alongside of the right-of-way, but not in it. So staff felt the way we should go down this is to look at this in the directional sign lens. So it doesn't meet all the requirements for directional signage. Why is that? So overall, the square footage sign is, it's about 40 square feet or so. So larger than the 6 square foot for signs. Additionally, the height itself ends up being about 12 feet rather than 6 feet in height. So you'll note there'd be a 7-foot clearance. What the petitioner explained as far as what their reasoning was behind it, but it's a 7-foot clearance rather than 10-foot clearance on this. This is where, if you were talking about a sign that happens to be freestanding that is a promotional sign, you want it to have some height to not be, to avoid clearance issues with vision along a block itself. But for this, that's not really in place. So the direction we thought was most appropriate was that it would go under 30-6, subsection 4, directional signage for the code itself. I just want to give that as a pretense. I know this is a bit confusing, because you could have went 2 different directions for what the sign, which way to go on this. But we still think that it's these numerical requirements that are what's really at play here. So as noted again, the sign is looking to be placed inside the parking lot for the users who are going and using those gates here at Georgia Pacific, and it exceeds both the dimensional overall square footage and the height requirements for a sign.
Did you say it exceeds the height?
Yeah, so the height for exempt signs themselves is 6 feet in total. That's as high as it can go for an exempt
This one
sign.
is 7?
So this is 7 to reach it to the bottom of the sign. Okay, then it's 5 more feet, so 7 plus 5, it gets you to the 12 feet overall. Okay? Keep in mind, if you were doing a sign for promotional purposes as freestanding, you'd have to start at 10 feet. That's where we have our minimum clearance at, and it can go as high as 30 feet if this happened to be a typical freestanding sign that was promotional. Like you're going past, say, a restaurant, a Taco Bell, and you see the sign that's a freestanding sign, those have to have 10 feet in clearance from the bottom, they can go up 30 feet in height.
So if they had a sign here that was 10 feet off the ground, going 30 feet up in the air, that had their logo on it with blinking LEDs, and then at the bottom,
And the
they
bottom
had
would show
the
the
turn
arrows.
arrows for the parking,
Yeah.
the loading docks, we wouldn't be having this conversation?
Right.
We wouldn't have it if it was set back 10 feet from the property line. This is set back right on the property line
Okay.
itself. Yeah, it'd be much higher in the air. So I'm just, if you're going for more of a promotional, like a
Right.
business marquee type of sign,
Yeah.
that's different. This is an exempt
It
sign.
looks
that
like
is-
they're trying to just direct truck traffic to where it needs to go here,
Right.
not do anything else.
We still felt this was directional in
Yeah.
nature, not promotional in nature.
All right.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for John on this? All right, let's hear from the petitioner. Sir, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
And are you Mitchell?
Correct.
Okay, great. I'm assuming the other people were who they said they were who they were. We didn't ask for name and address or something like that, like we've done from other folks, so my apologies. Mitchell, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Okay, great. Tell us why you need this sign.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a little bit of background here. So this is a 100-year-old, 200-acre manufacturing facility that's grown a lot over the years. So as you can see, yeah, thanks, John. From the map right here, we've kind of grown up down Lombardi, down Potts Avenue, primarily down Broadway. As our facility has grown, the logistics behind the facility have evolved with that. Right now, we currently have the expansion coming up on the north side, which I think they were here speaking with you guys a couple months ago about some parking lot stuff. We're also finishing up right now a new guard and gatehouse system that completely reworks the material flow for our facility.
I think there are some variances involved with that as well.
I think so, yeah. So one thing, as they were proceeding with that originally, they forgot to factor in that as we move gates and material flow, signs need to be updated. So that's how we're coming around right here, kind of round two, trying to clean that up. Since right now that gate has started, it's active, and there's mass confusion going on because of signage issues, which is a GP issue. So what we're looking to do and what we've gone through already, we've reviewed a lot of the existing signage we have down Broadway and Lombardi, knowing that an exempt directional sign is less than 6 square feet. We have updated signage being posted at the gates as appropriate, directing flows and calling out gates. We found a couple that were probably grandfathered in signs, but since they were in the right of way, we just pulled them out. We're standardizing designs, trying to clean it all up. As material flows to our facility, it comes down 2 primary roads. So could you go to the brown dog map? Thank you. So Potts Avenue, kind of on the south side right there, we get a little bit of traffic down that roadway. As they hit Broadway, everything's to the north. So it's very easy for trucks just to turn to the north, and then we all have our exempt directional signs along the roadway so they can peel into the right intersection. Where we run into issues is with trucks coming down Lombardi Avenue. So as they approach Broadway, there's currently no signage. And this is historically, there's been no signage there. There's kind of one off back in the distance. If you have a set of binoculars you could try to read, very ineffective. So as the semi-drivers approach our facility, we found 3 significant safety issues for both mill employees as well as for the public. So the first being, frequently enough, semi-drivers as they approach this will get in the left turn lane when their gates are to the right and vice versa, so they end up going the wrong direction. They then end up hitting residential blocks and doing U-turns, finding parking lots to turn around in, doing big loops around, which just increases an already heavy traffic area. The second one we've noticed is, since there is 2 turn lanes, trucks will position themselves in the wrong lane, and whether it's through memory or they see something, they realize they're going the wrong way, and then when it turns green, they just turn the direction they're supposed to go, which cuts them across lanes of traffic. Passenger vehicles then have an unexpected semi coming across, pedestrians trying to cross the road to go to work, may or may not experience a semi-driver inadvertently coming their way. And the third issue is we do have, not as frequently as the other 2, but we do have semi-drivers that just proceed straight in towards the employee entrance. So now they're entering an employee parking lot. There's not the clearance for a semi to maneuver in that space. So by the time we get someone out there to help them, it's like a 30-point turn across 3 different crosswalks, nearly interacting with people's parked cars. It's just not a very good or safe situation. So the goal of this signage, intentionally set back at the location John's roughly showing us here, allows a driver, as they're approaching the facility, to have nice, simple, clear instruction as to where the various gates are. Their transcripts they get usually call out at least what gate they're looking for. So they'll know on their paper, we're going to gate 9. It's clear, it's easy to see for them as they approach the facility. Part of the reason I know we could skirt the rules a little bit here and put up like 6 different signs that are all 2 by 3. Yeah, and then you kind of start getting signs stacked behind each other. And we do note that a lot of our drivers coming with deliveries, there is a language barrier there. So then having like frequent repeated signs that they're trying to read while they're approaching an intersection. We're just trying to keep it clean, keep it simple, easy to read for them to identify the direction they need to go. So that's part of it there. We talked about the wonky heights that were selected. Semi-intentional behind that, despite the fact they seem random. We decided to go with this spot besides just that lane splitting right ahead, because we didn't want to be right on top of the Broadway intersection. You start having vision triangle issues. By the time they're at the intersection, it's too late to get yourself positioned in the appropriate lane. So we've strategically kind of placed that there, moved it inside of the GP, at least the property line. We're right on that line, but right there. And we put it 7 feet up in the air, just so we could get it above the standard height of a pickup truck. That way, if a pickup truck parks in the parking spot next to that, the sign is still visible over the top of that truck. Could we have extended it up to 10 feet? Yes. However, you can see there are light poles, Georgia Pacific light poles right there with a power line. So we're trying to skirt that line between getting above a truck but not extending our sign so high, we're starting to interact with that power line and putting a contractor at risk as they install that or have to maintain that. So that's some of the thought process that went into why it's there. We didn't want to slide it in another 10 feet because then you're pushing the sign further away from the roadway. It's harder to see. You start to lose some of that easy visibility for a truck driver as they're coming down the road. I'm just, sorry, glance at my notes here, see if there was anything else. Vision triangles. Yeah, so the primary reason, as I've kind of pointed out, is just to try to, due to the unique layout as a vehicle approaches from the most popular intersection to approach from, we're just really trying to help efficiently get them to the right place in a safe manner for everybody.
Are all of your gates included on this sign then?
That is correct. Yep. Yep, a couple of those gates right now are not active right now, but once that new paper complex comes online, they're already included in here. So that would be Gate 1A and Gate 4 is currently active, but Gate 1A will be coming online with that new paper complex.
Not necessarily relevant, but just because I need to understand
Yep.
systems. Are there other gates for people or traffic that have other numbers so that you don't have gate just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
No, this is
It's just legacy numbers.
legacy stuff with, at one point in time, there were gates in between there and they've just been eliminated, but that one's just always been Gate 15, so just for internal documentation and all of that stuff, it unfortunately is married to really unideal numbering.
Yeah, maybe some future revision could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
6, and 1 is red, 2 is blue, 3 is orange, 4 is yellow, 5 is green,
Yeah.
And then you can just have the even simpler arrangement, but.
I know.
This is a great presentation. Is there any questions for the applicant?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
You have any other directional signs on the lot with this dimensions and at this height?
Yes, there is one, so there are two other signs. They are both mounted to building walls. One of them will be removed with this project, and the other one is mounted on a building at the end of Potts Avenue. And since that one really isn't changing, it's missing the Cinco sign number on it. But otherwise, it's still mounted there on the wall.
And tell me again why you can't just put in two signs with the correct size?
Yeah, so given some of the language barriers we have with truck drivers, we want to make sure the font's as large as possible.
Two
So-
signs.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
If you eliminate the word gate 4 times,
Mhm.
which would be entirely possible with this,
Mhm.
you could have a fairly large font in the same square footage.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I think the concern with that is still just trying to keep things as large as possible, get it out there, make it easy to see. We were concerned as well along the roadway here, if it was just a 2x3 sign on a post, that would be very easy for a truck driver approaching the facility, looking up at the facility to look past, given it is slightly offset and in the vehicle lot area.
What was the dimensions of this sign again?
It is a 5-foot tall by 8-foot wide.
Yeah, that's that's 40 square feet.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a significantly larger than 6 feet.
Yeah, talking with the facility, if by chance we don't receive alignment with this, the most likely path forward, just because we want to keep things as visible and large as possible for truck drivers, is likely creating 6 directional signs of 2x3, and then we got to decide how we're going to position those.
Why would you need 6?
Just for the 6 gates, to try to keep it simple.
You don't, that would be the opposite of keeping it simple.
Okay.
I mean, you've got. the
Well, that's your
word- you've
opinion,
got-
Stephen.
Yes.
That's what I do for a living, opinion. I mean, you've got the word gate 4 times in here where you don't need it on 2 signs. I
Yep.
mean, I don't understand where you would put 6 individual signs up. Can you explain why that would be a good idea?
That's just, so, right now, our logistics individuals, that includes like the engineers in that area, and then they also contract out Paper Transport Inc., so PTI. We have 5 or 6 full-time PTI drivers, so those are summer drivers that are at our facility full-time. We've brought them into all the conversations on these signs regarding verbiage, including the other like gate call-out signs. And since they have the semi-driver mindset, we said, if you're driving down the road, what would you want to see, so you know which gate you need to turn into, why you should be turning here, and we've let them review and provide feedback on the signs. And this was their preferred alternative, and if not that, they
That's
requested
good to
the know.
know,
Okay.
that's well in your favor.
I would note too, just looking at this, if that sign is 8 by 5,
Mhm.
then each of those arrows is darn near a 2 by 3.
Yeah,
You know,
like
because
that,
if
yeah.
you split that 4 times across the width of it, that arrow is 2 feet wide. And if you look at it's a 5-foot tall sign, well, that's 2.5 feet tall then, roughly, you know. You wouldn't be able to put that arrow on a 2 by 3 sign and have 3 gates or 4 gates information on there as
Right,
well.
and you need it for literacy and ESL. Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
I'm good.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I think a lot of them, I had a few, but a lot of them were answered based on the discussion. But overall, I just wanted to affirm that, I think we've discussed in greater detail about, the dimension size. I think that's been discussed. But I guess is the only thing for the height, the fact for the trailer, for the obstruction of view when they're parked near that area was?
Yeah, you're saying that 7-foot underclearance?
Yes, because otherwise it would not necessarily be allowed. But you're saying that that's part of the variance as well.
Yeah, I think that's included in here, and that's just, given we're placing that in the employee parking lot and we're eliminating a parking spot there, if by chance someone parks with their pickup truck on the
And they all
west side
back
of
into
the-
the stalls. Why do they all back into?
Yeah,
the
well, that would work in our favor here, but if by chance they nosed in or they had a capper on their truck or something like that, we just wanted to make sure the sign was up high enough that the semi-drivers would still be able to see that, otherwise kind of null and void having a sign.
You get a lot of piled snow there too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions? Thank you. Any other questions? All right, does anybody see a path forward here with regard to this item and the test that we need to apply?
I have 3 of them,
All right,
and then I can try.
go ahead.
So for the hardship one, the total expansion of the property, it puts them right up to the property line there now, where they have to have this sign. And because the power lines are there, that they can't change the power lines. So I think, to me, that power lines make the hardship where they can't go up to 10 feet. So they can't do that 10-foot sign. They have to do a shorter sign. Does that work?
Okay.
I think that's
Yeah.
the other issue though with the other type of sign, if that would meet
Right.
the requirements for the other sign, but.
Just note, for this one, because it's a directional sign, the max height is 6 feet. I just wanted to
And then when
note
the
to this
pickup truck-
committee that when it comes to this, so when it comes to signs that were not directional, they could go that high. So I just wanted to give it, we could have went 2 pathways on this, but we felt directional was more appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it is, but a directional sign that would be shorter, there's going to be the problem of the cars are higher. That's a hardship. I'll give that one as a hardship. Tall
You throw
cars.
an ad there.
We'll do that
I-
one. Safety issues is under.
All right, let's,
Okay,
but
sorry.
before we move on from hardship, let's hear anybody else's comment on hardship, if anybody else has a comment with regard to hardship. I would note that I think the compliance with code and, multiple small signs is just not sufficient with regard to semi-truck traffic going down Lombardi Avenue and needing to make a decision on whether they're turning left or right at the end of the street. So
Right.
trucks going willy-nilly to me is part of the hardship. Okay, go on to your
And
next
I
statement.
did, in absence of detriment. In fact, I think it creates a safer way because the trucks knowing where to turn and knowing where to position themselves is much safer than not. And from what was described, where they're in the wrong lane or they're turning over traffic coming, I mean, it will make this a safer, so I don't think it will create any detriment. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have
Does
one?
anybody else have any comment with regard to absence of detriment? All right, go ahead.
Then, preservation of property rights. I think that with the business, they do have a right to show where trucks need to go, where deliveries need to go, where people need to park, where people need to drive. And I think it preserves that right of property right for their particular business.
Great. Anybody else have any comment with regard to property rights? All right, I have heard some argument with regard to 5, 4, and 3. Anybody have any comments with regard to preservation of intent or exceptional circumstances?
So I think exceptional circumstances, I think I can make that argument. In this particular case, I think that the exceptional circumstances are that the city's codes on directional signage don't necessarily comply with modern states. I mean, when that was done, I mean, I imagine that the majority of people who parked at Fort Howard were driving sedans. And, you know, not everybody was driving an SUV or a pickup truck or whatever. And since I came here in a pickup truck, I guess I'm part of the problem. But I see that, looking at that, it seems to me that the exceptional circumstances here is that you've made, particularly with your discussion of what the other truck drivers saw, I put a lot of weight into that, that what we're seeing right now might be good for a simple, what the code allows for is a simple sign, and for a simple direction that doesn't need embellishment, and then that smaller sign and smaller height would have been fine. In this particular case, I think, especially, like I said, with the advice of the actual drivers, that this is an exceptional circumstance that wasn't thought of when this particular ordinance was put in. And I mean, that would be how I would deal with exceptional circumstances.
Thanks, Stephen. Anybody else have a comment with regard to exceptional circumstances? I do. I think that, I go even beyond that. I think the entire project site is weird, right? The multiple sides of streets, multiple directions, significant flow of semi-traffic, significant flow of pedestrians going to and from, their jobs. Everything about this and its evolution over time is an unusual set of circumstances, and I'm personally grateful for your work in making it safer for everybody. That intersection can be kind of hairy, as can the Potts intersection, and so any of these improvements are I think are good. And I do think that a community has to build zoning codes to meet most circumstances, and a huge plant with a significant volume of truck traffic is probably out of the bounds of some of that, and we have to then have a process where you come and say, hey, I need to do something a little different because the norm isn't working here. And so I would say, I would add that argument to the exceptional circumstances case that Stephen made.
I think that also kind of feeds into the preservation of intent as well.
Yes,
That's feeding into it. Well, yes, I'm just saying that if you're stating that in order to be, that there is a process in place that we evaluate the existing zoning code, and that we feel as though something is outside of the scope of what the intention was, this is the process that an applicant goes through in order to try to grant a variance and make an exception to the existing zoning code. So I think based on your argument, that just stating that based on the circumstances that the applicant finds themselves, that through this process, that it's trying to rectify the issue that's there. And that means, looking at the site, it's an extremely large site, truck drivers go through, and that they need to be able to see where they're going. I think that meets the intention of what it was initially as well. It's just we live in a world where it's kind of bigger and it's a bigger site.
I agree completely. We're not throwing out the code for directional signs. We're accommodating an unusual circumstances and keeping that as close to the intent of the directional signage as possible.
And in addition to that, I really do think that looking at the spirit, purpose, intent of the regulations was to provide clear directional signage. And in this case, it's just a little bit outside of what was originally envisioned. And the amount of justification you had brought for the thought process around it and everything else. I know I pushed on you a little hard, but that's what I do.
You're good.
But all of that work around that tells me that this wasn't well, we're making signs this size, so they're all gonna be this size. This was a thought out process done with intent and not done in the spirit of trying to circumvent the city law or use a loophole or try to snake something in. I think it was done with, clear and, I don't know if pure intent is the right way to say it, but positive
Yeah, I think
intent
we
to
follow.
comply as much as possible.
Right, so it seems to me that this group has evaluated the 5 elements here and have found that this variance request can satisfy all.
Yeah, I move that we approve this variance request based
Okay.
on our discussion.
Great, there's been a motion, is there a second?
I can second.
Right, we've got a motion and a second to approve this request, finding that it did meet all 5 tests, and is there any further discussion of it? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, aye. Motion carries, thank you so much.
No, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to grill you a little bit.
No, I like it.
That's my standard, that's my standard
job.
thing.
You got me on my toes there. I like it.
If you're a man of opinion, you gotta live by it.
Okay, that concludes the regular business. Informational, the next date of the meeting of the Board of Appeals is December 18th, 2023. And having no other business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Great, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was nice.
They do a good job of
You really do. And I mean, I really do push corporate people all day. That's